Okay, well, hello to another lecture, or no, hello and welcome to another lecture in this ongoing series of learning more about art. In this case, today, I'm going to be talking about digital art and specifically how to wow, I can't talk. It's okay, I'm not editing anything. Cel Shade. I'm going to be sharing my process today, what I put together after literally hundreds of characters and many, many hours of doing this from many, many contracts, and hopefully it'll give you something to work with. It's not that crazy, especially when you got a few digital tricks and tips. Wow, I should have taken a deeper breath before I started doing my little monologue there, because I just fell down the proverbial stairs on that one. Anyway, so when you're doing cel shading, it's not as complex as you think. There's really just a few layers you need to give it that kind of classic look, right? And when I mean classic, I mean more like an anime kind of look, you know, when you think of like Naruto or Bleach or whatever super popular anime you can think of, there's usually just a few layers. Of course, the obvious one is you're going to need lines, right? I'm going to write these out in the way I think you should set up the layers, the way I set them up. So you have your lines, right? That's at the top. That's where you start, right? You start here. This is the first thing you do is you draw your lines, right? That's your number one. Without lines, we have no character, right? Now the thing is, in digital programs, these layers decide and dictate what information is on top of what other information, right? So you don't want to put your color layer over your lines, because then that interrupts how your lines show your figure, right? Makes sense? So your lines, you start there, but they go at the top of the layer structure. And what you want to do, what I like to do, is you go down here to the bottom. You make a new layer that I like to call the flats, or just flat, and you do a pass of one solid color using your selection tool like a wand or something, because what this does, and you'll see in a second how you do this, I'm just giving you kind of the precursor, is this fella right here helps to get rid of artifacts. Like if you do your lines, right, and they say, right, maybe like a point like this where they have this really tight point here. When you color it in with like a wand or something, what'll often happen? I have. Oh, please, thank you. Oh, that's it. Right when you do your selection, there's usually like artifacts down at the bottom. This part doesn't get colored in, right? And so I like to do this big flat pass using a wand tool. You'll see. Don't worry, you'll see. And this really gets rid of the artifacts. So this is to destroy. Oh, I'm still in the color. I like that. Destroy your artifacts, right? And the next one, your number 3. This one is a clipped layer on top of the flats, because when you clip a layer, the information can't go outside it, right? So this one's like a flat color. I'm just going to drop these in because I think we're getting bored of me writing. And then a number 4. This is going to be our little guide and light here. Then I like to do the shade, and like maybe any other extra shade, right? This is like usually darker ones. Shader. Yeah, your shader shades, right? Your darker. Number 6 is your light pass. And then you can do, as you can see, you can do as many like light or dark layers as you want. Right, you can do 2 light layers. Usually I just do 1, because you can kind of combine your lights and your highlights. And then if you want to do classic cel shading, you're going to want to do what I would like to call a color pass. And this fella right here is all you really need to do really classic cel shading, right? So let's shrink that puppy down. You can barely see that. Let me expand my canvas here. Drop things. Jeez, did I not get enough sleep or something? Am I drunk and I don't even realize it? Anyways, so good so far. So far so good. Wow, I can't speak today. I'm not editing anything. Nothing's gonna be edited. We're gonna keep all of this, and you'll all remember what I did today. Okay, so of course the first thing you want to do is you do your sketch. So I got one here from a piece I did for a commission. And let's move this all over so we can watch the layers at the same time. Transform. Oh, actually, I just realized an issue. Yeah, it's fine. Okay. So, you start with your sketch, right? And you see over here on the left, I have this giant wad of layers. Don't worry, I am going to go through those and make sense of it. You start with your sketch, right? You do a pass with like a round brush. It's at like 60%. You're just penciling. You've got your sketch. It looks great. Cool. Right? What I have over here, what I want to show you is what I call my block. Right? I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can see that on the screen. But you notice there's a layer above my sketch that's clipped. Because in Photoshop, at the very least, I don't know if this is true for other programs, but you can't merge your layers into a clipped layer. So what happens is if you're working up top here above it and you want to like merge layers down for whatever reason to keep things clean, this block here stops you from merging all of your information into your sketch layer, which, as we know, sucks, right? And you're like, oh, I've been drawing on the wrong layer, right? Another tip for you for digital, whenever you go to a new layer, I just hotkey to my eraser, like I press E, and I just leave a mark somewhere, anywhere on the canvas that doesn't affect the actual information, because when you hit undo, you know, sometimes you go to the wrong layer. So when you hit undo, it'll like take you to a different layer, like the past one you were on. So if you do a little eraser mark, it gives you just a little extra like stopgap. So if you hit undo too many times, you don't go to your past layer. Does that make sense? As a little like some oopsie protection? You just like, yeah, that one has saved me so much headache. So just when you go to a new layer, just do some random stuff with an eraser off in the corner. And then if you hit undo too many times, it just undoes those random eraser marks rather than going to the wrong layer and screwing up your day. Especially when you want, like if you ever want to get into commissions and you want to like do a lot of these very quickly, you start getting into like a zone where like your fingers are just going nuts and you're hitting all the buttons, and we want to avoid you going to the wrong layer and having a bad day. So you do your sketch. It kicks ass. Okay, so we turn our sketch down. We go up here and we do our lines. I didn't actually do all the lines because no one wants to watch me draw that. Right, so here's some lines. We turn off our sketch. There he is. Right, they're great. A little tip for you where you're like, why do my lines look crap compared to sketches? You got to do line dynamics, right? Notice, this is just a little aside. You'll notice like these lines all have different weights to them, right? Like this one is thicker than this one, and then they just have lots of thickness variation. And you want to put your thickness in strategic spots. Like if you look at the eyebrows, it's thicker on the bottom and thinner on the top. And that's a way to just communicate that depth to people. You keep that feeling of liveliness when you go to your lines. So, finally, we have lines. How do we color them? Well, so this comes back to that flat one I was talking about. Let's see here. So I've actually set this up so that you do that manually with pen pressure, right? So the harder you press, the thicker it is. You don't actually have to do it like that either, even though I highly recommend you do that. You can also just change the shape or the thickness of your pen. So like, I'll go here and turn off pen pressure. Shape dynamics, right? So this one just makes the same line every time, no pressure, but you can just make it smaller and get those lines. And so, right, I'm just playing with my hotkeys as I do this. The pen pressure is like the easy way to do it, right? This is the pen pressure one. I'm pressing hard, I'm pressing light, right? You get different thicknesses. Okay. Cool. All right. So I just realized I did put a line right here just so things don't break. I have to color this in. So don't mind this line here. This is just my keep it all inside line, right? We're gonna pretend that this is the edge of the piece, right? So I want to give you this stuff over here so you can watch. Okay. So I'm gonna cross these off as we go. Oh, neighbor sounds. Okay, so we got our lines. Boop, done. Now onto the flats. So I actually have right here the fancy light version. where I have some of this set up, right? You see there I've already kind of pre-done this, just in case we need to like make time more efficient. I'm just booping around here, making sure these lines fit proper, because I have a lot of stuff I want to cover today, and I want to make sure you don't miss a thing, right? Let's do that about there. Sure. So this is that flat layer I was talking about. You put it at the bottom because it'll get rid of your artifacts, right? How do I do this? Where did that come from? So, you go to your flat layer, you set up down here, grab your wand tool, and you want to select outside your character, right? Don't click inside, click outside. Make sure you have sample all layers on, right? You select everything. Oh, you see there was an issue right there. So what you also want to do before you do this is go to your line layer, which is somewhere in this mess. You can see how right here, there's this base. When I go to my wand tool, that's going to, of course, not catch. So just go around and make sure your outline is all nice and full. So you walk around. So if there was like a piece missing here, I want to say there was a little oopsie here, fill it in. Okay, just boop. And go around, do a little check, and make sure your outlines of these spaces behind your character are all enclosed, because that's going to make coloring so much faster, right? So if we go to our flat layer again, and I'll grab that color once more. Okay, outside, looks good. You hold down Shift to select multiple areas, by the way, right? There, and there. Okay. Now what I do is I use the expand function, which is in Photoshop. I don't know what it is in other programs, but I expand by one pixel. So it just goes into the line art slightly. And then you want to select inverse. Right click, select inverse. Now, when I do my fill, I just fill it, right? It's Alt deletes the hotkey on Photoshop. I don't know what it is elsewhere. Oop, I get the wrong color entirely. There we go. Oh, and this is, right, this is on the outside. Right. So now, with this big flat one here, places where there might have been an artifact, like right here in this little fold of hands, you can see there's nothing there. It's all completely filled in, and this will save you an abundant amount of time when you're doing your coloring. Because normally when we color, we like to, we don't think about it, we just kind of, right? Because this is how you do it in traditional, so we kind of take that to digital, but digital is a whole different frontier, right? That's how you skip a bunch of time filling in, like, usually hair is really bad for it, right? Like these areas, usually, right? But now you can see there's just nothing there. There's nothing in all these little tight spots, there's nothing. It's just perfect, right? Okay, so the next thing you want to do is get that set up. I'll just stop doing this one. Is your flat colors. Okay. And so all you do here is pick mid-tone colors, right? Nothing too bright, nothing too dark, just kind of mid-tones, right? And you drop them in. And you can do them the exact same way with, actually, what I should do, I know what I should do. I have a great idea. I have a big boy. I'm gonna take these, duplicate them, group them, put them down in the corner so I can grab these colors faster to save us some time. There we go. That's gonna be way nicer. So this is our example. And then, I don't need this anymore. Here's what we're working over here on the side. Right, okay. That's gonna be way faster. Cool, good job guys, good work. Everything makes sense so far. We're getting some light bulbs. Dots always wants his light bulbs. Demands them. Cool. We're getting some stuff here that we hadn't thought about before. Awesome. So you then go and make another layer. Right? We're gonna do this one now. Oop. Oh, my crosses, they disappeared. My marks. My marks, right? So we've got our line layer and we've got our flats layer to destroy artifacts. Now we're gonna do our flat color on top. Why do I like to do them different? Because I like to have this dark undertone underneath, because when you do your flat color layer, you're gonna have, again, this artifact issue. But if you have these nice kind of dark base color, like a base coat. When you say go in and do this skin and you miss a spot, rather than go in and try and find all these little itty bits, there's just a dark spot, which would make sense in like a folded, creased area, right? Like right here in the ear, you might get one of these artifacts, but this purple color makes sense to just kind of be there, so who cares, right? And it'll save you so much time. So grab a skin tone, grab your wand tool, and just select areas where the skin would go. And again, the same thing as before. Do a little check around the area, make sure the outline's all enclosed, and then when you go in your wand tool, you just select it's all there, right? You can see here, like the hand is already did it to make sure beforehand, but it's all the little marching ants have selected the area. But if you look, for instance, look here, I didn't completely do the fingers because who cares? It's still all skin tone, right? So just make sure your outlined area is enclosed. The inside part doesn't matter. And then we just go around, we pick all the areas that would have skin tone. Right, his face is going to have skin tone. Oh, we can see a little bit there, but who cares? We'll just go over that. And that looks like all of his skin. At this point, I like to expand once again by 1 pixel, because what'll happen is, let me show you. So you see here how like it's kind of around some of these lines, right? If I fill it now, it's going to create like a little tiny bit of space in between the line areas and the colored areas. So you want to just expand your selection by 1 or 2 pixels depending on the thickness of your lines. Fill it in. You see how if I zoom right in, how these marching ants are now a little bit inside the lines, right? That's why I expanded it ever so slightly, because now when I do my fill, it catches all that. Now we go in and we can see, okay, it's just a few spots. So I'm just gonna have a flat color and just loop that in. Fine, right? We adjust, cares, bow, bow, bow. Right? You see how fast that is? How much time you'd save if, like, for instance, you're doing commissions. This part we have a little oopsie, so we just erase. Just, again, see this to create that little border there. And then I can just select, expand, delete. See how much time that saves? Freaking seamless that is. Instead of just, you know, the other option is I would have to go in and do this, and this is just so my wrist is done, I'm bored, I want to go home, mommy, please help me. We ain't got time for that. We're professionals, and we're here to pump out some characters, because the faster you draw seeds, the more seeds you can draw. The faster you draw, the more commissions, the more money, more pictures, more winning. Right? And that's what we want. We want to win. Be professionals. So, checking to look over for artifacts. Okay. Pretty good, right? Cool. And the same thing, you go around, do all your passes with your color, right? So you can watch, like, if I start doing this at my full speed, right? Here's a little thing here, thing here, here. What do we got? I did this. And then we just go over. Oh, I missed a spot. Now we're just doing a live painting at this point, and then we have flats. I'm not going to do the whole thing just because it take quite a while. Actually, not really. I could do, once you get good at this, like, you can see how you can get a character out in 1 to 2 hours. Easy. Especially once you get confident with your line art, you can just drop these things out. Select it all, expand. Check for artifacts, Ooh, that one should be. Those are the wrong color. Oh, I didn't select the green. Oh dear. Why is it doing that? Huh, weird. Made the daggers the wrong color. Oh dear. That's not good. There we go. Okay. Let's just get his shirt done so I can show you. Or we'll do his face. His face for that. So we'll just drop in some color here for his face, right? Color in his eyes, and this is a technique you can use for coloring. So you can see here, there's this space here, right? Well, how do I do the eyes? You can color it in like this if you want, or you can do a little trick where you just kind of draw it out with the color, and then select with all layers on. Select inside. See? See that? How it's all selected like that? Again, expand so you get into your lines. Boom. Then you're not doing the whole thing, which honestly these days just feels so clunky to me. It's like I want to color my eye already. I ain't got time for this. Boom. Selected. Grab his eyes. We got this one. We got this one. Slide on over here. Grab his irises. I don't know why, but my selection tool is only picking for the back color, which I don't know why that's doing that. Whatever. Select. Boom. Boom. Is watching me do this live helpful, or would you like me to speed things up? By the way, here you can do another trick where you select the areas, stay selected, and then you can color within the lines, right? So I can't go outside. Right, see that? So it stays in, so... Right, so you can do like this kind of thing if you want. Or, conversely, you can color it all in and then paint out of it. Right? That's another way to do it. Okay. Yeah, we're getting bored. Cool. So. Okay, let's get to his, whatever. So, the shade part, we move up, we grab shade. This one I set up as a linear burn layer. You'll see it here on our little dude, right? The reason I like linear burn is with cel shading is when you look at most cel shading styles, there's a real uniformity to the color of the shade, as in there's like an overlying consistent sort of tone to it. In this case, over here, this is what the actual color looks like. See this big purple? And I picked purple because this piece is based on secondary colors, oranges, greens, purples. So you can see he has, you know, orangey skin. And then we did kind of purpley tones for his shade and his piece of clothing, and then green highlights for all of his daggers and embellishment and stuff like that. So, grab this kind of nice, rich, saturated color for your shade, whatever it might be. And then you want to set up a linear burn layer with about 30 to 50% opacity. You change your opacity based on how much you want the thing to pop, right? So you can see I want like a really high contrast. I'll go to like 77%, a little lighter, 50, 40, 30, that's up to you. This one's at 50. And then on your linear burn layer, that's how you get that cel shade look, right? Now, got a couple different ways of doing this. You can just color it in, just fine, right? And you can see how with the clip layer, I am drawing outside, but it only does information on the inside. That's really cool, right? Two main ways to do this to keep it nice and quick is you can draw the areas, right? You can grab a big brush and just like go, okay, there's a peck shade here, right? And I just do it in. You just enclose the area, right? Or let's do his face, it'll look a little clearer, right? So we know if we do a face, there should be a line on his nose. And this is something I should point out. When you see the linear burn, you see how the shade makes sense on every layer. Right? These are all different colors. Right? You can see how this one's more on the Here, see the color picker? That doesn't show up in the screen, that's okay. But hopefully you can see how these are different colors. And am I going too fast here, or is this all good speed? Because I'm getting into work mode. I can feel myself slipping. Just like pulling into this like go mode where I just like go into my little zen state. Okay, good. So I like to do a balance of either you draw out the shaded area, right? You just draw out what it would be, and then you select, you know, like say there's one here, and maybe we do, I don't know, his neck, right? And then you can select these areas using your wand tool on select all layers, expand by 1. Actually, for shade, I'd probably suggest expanding by 2 or 3. And then just do your fill. Or you can, if you don't know the fill button, you can just color it in, right? Make a big brush and just color, whatever. And all of a sudden, there's a shell shade, right? And you can see, oh, a little artifact. Okay, go in there, fix it. Boop, boop, boop. Right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. The other one is you can just pick areas with your wand tool and just drop them in. Those are the 2 main ways to do that. And with that, you can quickly cel shade the whole thing. So like, I could here, paint. And here's a fun tip for you. Because you have to decide on your edges, right? Do you want hard edges? Do you want soft edges? Do you want bold? So in this case, we have this neck edge here. You can grab your blur tool and just go over the side and make that classic blur, right? You just follow it, right? Go along the soft edge and just blur it. Or what you can do is you can grab a soft round brush eraser and do a pass like this, right? See how I get that nice, ooh, look at that. You can also color more, right? If you want to just do a little extra stuff on top, right? Because maybe always got a neck muscle, so we just do a little boop, boop. And you can erase those too if you want, right? Give you some options there. Maybe you want to make one a little lighter, maybe you want to just keep it all very hard edged, up to you. Some fun stuff. And then yeah, you would go in and just, you can paint, you can select whatever you want to do. Right, maybe this whole area is done, maybe he's this. Right, see here I'm just kind of painting out the area with the line, select it all, expand. Right, and this is so cool because it gives you like the automatic color for the area, like how you see how there's this nice kind of cool tone to the eyes. If I go in the skin, it's nice and warm. So linear burns are secret sauce, right? That's how you look pro AF. You know what I'm saying? We don't need the right. And of course, this is a lot easier if you learn your basic forms. Because if you're like, how is he selecting where to do this? It's because I know how the face is shaped. So if you're like, I don't know what's going on, you really should go study faces, because that will make this a lot easier. Right? So maybe that. That's a big fat lip, whatever. Right? That's how you shade. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right guys? We're having a good time, alright. Smash that like button, leave a comment, subscribe. We're drawing some crazy anime characters today. Okay. Cool. Alright, so there's your shade. Now you have an option here. If you want to do classic cel shading, you just do this like that. Boom, right? You do the one, you don't do any fancy stuff. You know, you can do one of these if you want to look. This is how you kind of look a little more pro, right? But if not, you can stop right there. You can also, if you want to get fancy, you can lock the layer right here. That's that little doohickey in Photoshop, right? You see it flashing, hopefully. You can then go in with a gradient pass if you want, where say you grab a brush set to soft light, a white, and do a really big pass like that, and you can just do the whole gradient like that. The pass. That makes sense. You see that? You can darken it like this, so you need these like big passes. that lock, so you lock your whole shade area, and then you do big light passes or gradient passes to give that nice flow of light change across the form. So that's a real like kind of the trick that really differentiates what you might call more professional art from less professional art, is just like locking layers and do these passes, right? And they don't have to be like black and white. You can do, you know, colors. Do like a deep purple, right? Now it's got that purple within it, and so we don't lose that color. And that's just one thing you do for your shade. Now, at this point, like I said, you make your choice. Do you want to go into more shade or just keep it cel shaded classically? We can see over here in my little example. This is the shading I ended up using, and you can probably see all the little effects that I put in here, right? This is just one shade layer. And you can see here I was doing some of these little like gradient passes. I erased a little bit, but also did the hard shade. There's some spots where I softened it, like here. Right, there's the softness. Right there, and the rest are all hard. So that's the shading I went up with, and you can see all the little itty bitties. You can see here on the blade, I erased some spaces. Give that light effect across the blade. All these little tricks just come with understanding what the hell is going on with a figure. Here is the extra darks. This is you can do another linear burn, or sometimes if you want to do like really hard darks, you can do a multiply layer. Go back to our fella here, right? You can use the same color, and you can come in and pick the really hard spots. There should be more shade. Gonna pass. Right? Darken it some more, and just do a little extra depth, right? Just pick some smart areas. Just go a little harder on the shade. That one's up to you, right? You don't have to do any of this if you don't want. This one becomes subjective. It's like, am I doing like a classic cel shade with just a couple layers, or am I doing something more complicated? I'll leave this one to you. I'm just giving you the option and how I like to do it. Right? And it's probably, I actually don't need that much, honestly. There wouldn't be that much shade there. If you're asking yourself at any point, like, where do I shade? You gotta go do your studies. Right, so if we look at mine here, at the dark shade areas, you can see, like, you do a little extra under the nose, lip, under the chin. You're just adding more depth to it. This one's optional, non-traditional cel shading, right? This is just like, I want to show off a little bit. Like, under the armpit's a good spot for more darks, right? Or this bottom left, where there would be more cast shadows based on the light, so on and so forth. I will leave that off since we're doing just kind of classic cel shading. Next is your light layer. We're just going to go to light. This one's a screen at 100%. I like to just pick the base color to draw with, and then just draw over top for highlights. So you might do one on the nose here, right? You might do one on the forehead, right? And you just kind of pick your areas to drop highlights. This one does not really show up in actual animation, unless it's, you know, stylistically like Attack on Titan has it, where you can see a light layer, a mid layer, and a shade layer. Most anime will stop with just this, right? You can see how this is, like, if this is like an animated cartoon, it's done, right? At this point, we're kind of getting down to, like, how do we want to paint it? Right? If, you know, you want to come in and do your light. And you can do all the same tricks with your light that you did with your shade. Right? Like, I can pick an area here, fill it, and come over with a soft round and nuke it a bit, right? And bring it down, and then just do this sort of pass like that. What you want to do, you can do the whole painty thing where, like, we select an area, select inside, expand, fill to save time, do a little eraser pass, right? That one's up to you, however you want to do it. With that really is kind of the end of how you cel shade. Really, after that, it turns into like tips and tricks and stylizations, and that's kind of my process. If we go over to the fella over in the bottom left here, you can see the light I picked, right? See that? I didn't do too much on this one, just a little bit of highlights. Right. Or like you can see like really bright whites. I just jack it up. See that? You can see I did like some big passes. For instance, here, I did a gradient. Right, see that? There's this gradient here. Right, and then there's these highlights, right? That one comes down to personal preference and just kind of deciding how you want to make the form. Does this process make sense now? You've kind of seen it, how you just drop a flat, like a big dark color pass, do your base colors, and then just decide how much shade and light you want to put on top of it, and clip as you go. That's really all there is to cel shade. Are there any questions so far? This is like an end product once you're really ripping through. Did anybody hear that? That was my cue for questions. Good, we're all making sense. Did we learn something about that? Do we have any questions about cel shading? Okay, do you want some tips and tricks? You want the like a little more like some digital wizardry? Yeah, okay. So as you can see, like it's not too complicated, right? Once you break it down, it's like okay, line, flat tube, dark shades, as many as you want. You get no highlights. And then the part that makes it like look fancy and schmancy is you just understand the forms, right? So you know where to light it, where to highlight it, little touches here, little touches there. That just comes with practice and exposure. So don't beat yourself up over that. But if you just want simple cel shading, just like literally a linear burn layer, I would suggest actually one more thing. If you want to get like a real anime look, you should do another linear burn layer at like 10% opacity. Get the same color as your shade. So what you want to do, go to your flat layer, duplicate it, put it in place, and lock it. Right, so there it is. We just put it over top, right? You see that? And what you want to do is you want to put it to linear burn, put it at 10%. Now it gives that unified color. See what I mean? If you feel like it's too dark, too light, whatever, you can turn it up, turn it down. But what this does is, this is in a lot of anime, by the way. Once you notice, and there's a logic for this, because the thing is, it puts your character into the environment more, right? Because if you're standing in, say, a very green forest, yes, ambient light, exactly, Dragon, and if there's a bunch of light bouncing around, there's going to be ambient yellow and green light, which will affect the light on your own body. So if our character's like in a forest, you should do a color pass of green light, and it'll help put that character into your setting. And that's why they do that. Right? Now, if you're just doing like a character pose, you can just grab your big flat on the bottom and put it on top. Or you can do the green, right? You can put green on him, right? Now he got that unified kind of green tone to him, right? Or you do a red, so it's kind of warm. That's one of the, like, that's a real anime trick. And one more thing you can do, and this, we're gonna get into the fancy schmancy stuff now, right? So we're gonna turn this off. We don't need you anymore, go away. Be gone. We don't need this one at the bottom here. Yep. Be gone. Let's get into my fancy stuff. I have a fancy one here I have all set up. Show you the tips and the tricks. Okay. So you're gonna see some of this little sneaky stuff going on here. There's my flats, right? Yeah, Fire Nation, Earth Nation. Here's our pass of the flats, right? Just slapped in. I have the irises here, they're done by themselves. Pupils done by themselves. I like to do eyes separate in case you want to change the colors, because anime is really big on eye colors, so I just keep those separate, even though they are flat colors. If I zoom in, it's very basic information, right? Not crazy. And I come in with my first linear burn pass, And you can see I did the daggers separate in this case. Sometimes it's good to do separate flats on things in the foreground so you can play with the light easier. Because in this case, you can see I did it because the dagger's over the suit. And so I wanted to make sure that information was easier to play with. And so I did these in the front, right? So these are over top. So you can see how the flats of the daggers cover things. And that way, when I want to do like passes for gradients or lighting on a locked color layer for the daggers, it's super easy, right? It's just a little bit of forethought to make the whole process quick and simple. Here's our shade, here's our shade, here's our shade, right? Might go Patsatsu, these are light. Actually, no, this is just, I shaded around where light would be. This is on a shade layer, right? There's actually a light layer. You can see how that light layer now affects these little pieces I didn't shade. And that's just, again, something that'll come with time where you're like, I should shade here, I should not shade here. That's its own lecture for lighting unto itself. Okay, then we got my extra dark shade. Then I have my light layers. Bang, bang, bang. This is all just the simple cel shading process. I'm not getting fancy yet. And a second light layer, right? So this here is just, all this is, even though it's like there's a lot going on here, there's a line layer, there's a bottom flat layer, there's a flat color, and there's 2 darks, 2 light layers. That's all this is. Which I think we add that up, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers. All we have here. This gives us a lot of room to play. Here's my first little trick for you. It's in between light shades. Don't do this too much, do it strategically. But you take a layer in between your lines and your light information and pick a color that's kind of in between your shade and your light or mid-tone and just color along it. You see it here? Right, if I do it like this, you can see it better. You just make these little lines along the opposite of the cast shadow, right? So you see the shadows coming from the top left, you put your lines in the bottom right, and it gives this nice little pop for your focal area because it adds some more contrast information where you want people to look. In this case, the face. So a little bit of pop information there. So that's tip number 1 to zazz it up. It's an in-between shade light. Okay. Next one is you do a gradient pass on the whole thing. So, actually, before I talk about that, what you should do, it's line coloring, right? And this one's optional. In this case, I didn't do it, but what you can do is, like, for instance, you go here. This is why your line layer is separate. It'll lock your line layer. You can either do a clipped one or on the layer itself. I'll do a clipped one. Brand new layer, clip it to your lines. Find your darkest dark of the area where the lines you want to color. So we grab a really dark, and we go down about here. And then what you want to do is grab a brush, and you can color your lines. This gives it this really nice feeling. See what I mean? See that? How it's got that. You look at the side on the right and the side on the left. The one on the right has this really kind of alive feeling because it's not black. Like you really, honestly, if you're doing painting, you shouldn't use black because black doesn't really have any color information to it, obviously, right? And color information helps create more depth and liveliness to your work. Now, you can either do it form by form, where the lines of the skin, say, have this kind of warm tone to them, or like the daggers will be green. You can see here I did a little green splash to show the light, right, on some of these areas, strategically. Or you can just do the whole thing in color tone. Like, actually, a lot of anime, what they'll do is you see red lines, right? So I'll just grab like one of those reds about here, drop that puppy in. And you can see it has this red lines, right? That's really popular on anime. If you want like the, okay, that's too much, grab an erase brush. This one you can see here, I just did a locked layer on top and just dropped the whole color in. So all the line information underneath gets colored red. Now if you're like, oh, okay, it's too much red, you can just pick some areas and erase strategically, and it will give you a little less intense. See that? So we just pick some areas strategically and just do some erasing on the opposite of the cast shadow, right? Just tick, tick, tick. Don't get too precious. Never get too precious. That's Satsu's motto. See that? Now we have the nice kind of red. It's a little trick for you to spice things up. Now, back to what I was talking about with the gradient pass. You grab all your information from the lines all the way down to that first flat. I want you to then duplicate all of them and merge them into a single layer. Right? So you can see here, this is all our information here. I'm going to group it, turn it off. Right? So these are the ones with the individual layers, where I can turn off colors. What I have here, this image is only the entire thing. Right? When I turn it on and off, the whole ass thing. Oops, I swore. Oops! I just got demonetized. And what you want to do, you take this entire layer, lock it. Now go to making your colors a white and a black, and go to your gradient tool. What you're going to do is you're going to do a gradient pass based on where the light's coming from, right? So our light's coming from the top left, so you do this big pass. Make this layer soft light, and then pick however intense you want it. So here it is at 100% opacity, 30, 10, right? And you can see how it gives you that nice collective feeling of locked-in holistic light, right? You really feel that ambience to it, right? So that's a really fun trick. That is the, what do you call that? The big gradient trick. And we want to coloring lines. Yeah, I got 2 more tricks for you. This one is pretty handy dandy if you want to give like a really classic anime look. Just how we took all the layers. I want you to do that again while holding that gradient. So you select your gradient, all your layers, which I just put in this little folder here. Duplicate, merge them again. Once again, this is just its own complete layer. And this is a Photoshop trick. I assume this is in other ones. You'll probably find something very similar in whether a Procreator or Clip Studio, Credo, whatever. You want to go to your blur gallery, blur, under filters, right? You go to filter up top here. It's not showing on the share screen, but I go to filter in my top section, blur, Gaussian blur, and it's set to 10 pixels of blur. And you just make this really blurred version on top of your whole thing, right? Now, right now it looks like he's out of focus. What I want you to do is make it soft light or normal, and then just turn down the opacity by a bunch, right? Like 10, 20, 30%. You see it gets this like nice soft look to him, right? With it off, with it on. It just kind of gives it this nice sort of fuzziness to it, right? And that's really big in anime. Like when you watch some animes, like the blur is just huge, right? But it's another thing where it helps kind of bleed your character into the environment, makes them feel less unattached, right? Because when you do you do animation, there's usually a painted background, and then we have very simple characters who we just don't have the time to do in really high detail because we have to animate them. So we use like big color passes or blurring to help put them into the environment. So that's my second last trick, is a big blur filter on top. One of my favorites. This is kind of just my own style I'm teaching you. It's not that original. And then the final one I got for you is painting on top, right? So you have all this stuff here. One of the things, when I say all this stuff, I mean you have all this information, your blur layer, your gradient layer, all your various flats, shades, blah, 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 lines that are colored. Is you start painting on top of it. So like here's one where I did another soft light on top, right? Did a little, you can see here on the hand, another like soft light pass to show that the hand is especially light. You can put some light on top of your, like these gems should have reflections, right? So I can come in here with like a brush and, do a little, I can do a little like one of these. The line breaks, right? You see that? But that tells any viewers that there's like a really shiny object here, right? Shiny, shiny. Right? So you paint over top in really strategic spots and gives this real show-offy kind of vibe, right? I'm really on top. So you can go here and like do a little paint on top here, right? You just kind of go over the lines a bit because it creates more of that depth and dynamism in your overall piece, right? And you can see here I have a layer for it where I did dagger shine, so it's very, very light. You can see here there's like a shine coming off the dagger. Show that radiance, right? I have a background I can pop in, which I'll show you in a sec. Actually, it's right here, right? So here's a background. You see there's that little pop of light over top where the dagger's shiny. Yeah, because I painted over top. Show off a little bit. Make that glint. And here we have the eye one, which is really great in anime. I love doing, and this makes just, it's so great in anime, where you just come in over everything and put this like little white drop on the eye and it just pops. Starts singing to you like a little bird. One of my favorites. Right? Usually there's like one here. This will go person to person, but I like doing one over top, little one here, and then one down in the bottom. You see how that eye just sings now? You can blur it if you want, make it a little softer. You make it lighter based on the light. Again, that comes to how you want to do it. And those are kind of all my tips and tricks. Do you like them? Which ones do you want to use? Which ones did you like? Which ones sucks? I'm gonna slap in the background while I do this. Yeah, I gave him lightning, so I thought that made sense. This was art for somebody in the Discord. They want a contest. I did an OC for him. And that's Brosatsu's official process for how he does cell shading and commissions, his commissions, or his anime style that he's learned from years. Of course, this goes way beyond just cell shading, because again, cell shading is just that one base layer. Oh, I should put a little more on the goggles there. Yeah, there's so many fun tricks in digital. You'll learn your favorite. The big one I want you to just take away from this is the ones that'll really like kind of show off to people. That's what we want to do, right? We want to show off. Is on your shade. Playing with your shade. That's where you really like get in people's heads, where you like make your shade layer and then you like do these passes. Right? That's really where like you call them like go to hell. You do these like little strategic softenings. You can also do like a big one like this. Where you just do like a full blur on the one section. It just bleeds right in. And even though a lot of it is just like you see that a second ago, this was a really simple classic cell shaded layer, but I just did 2 wipes with a soft eraser brush and then my little fancy blur tool here, which does these like choppy distortions. It's just the blur tool with a smudgy brush, which I don't know, you might have one like that. You can just pick any brush with some texture to it. Like for instance, if I come in, I got one here that's called the chalky brush, which I think most things have, right? Just chalk brush. Looks like that. Good old fashioned chalky brush. Chalky. Just go to your little blur tool, pick it, and it'll kind of get that stuff for you, right? Kind of chunk it up. There's all kinds of ways to do it. That's where you get your real bang for your buck, though, is you work the shade. You work that shade hard, and that just kind of shows everybody, like, this guy knows his stuff, right? Like I was saying with the blades. Okay. Grab that purple. Right, drop it in and then get smart about it, right? Erase some smarty parts with different lights, right? You see, it's not that crazy. A big eraser, come in, right? How simple that was. Now it's like, oh, I have dagger looks friggin' sick, bro. But that's literally just one layer with some smart shading, where you just think about it first. But with that is Brosatsu's shell shading. Seashell shell shade by the seashore. Cel shading tutorial. You know my full process now. Are there any questions before we move on to the Q&A? No questions? Did I illuminate some minds today? Everyone's chomping at the bit to go get some drawing done. Feeling inspired, like, oh wow, that's good. I want to hand you those tips and tricks so you can go use them. A lot of these I just picked up over the years, but if I can just hand you all of them now, that's going to save you a lot of time. And, you know, with that, let me know if you want me to dive into any of these aspects more. We can do more lectures on this. I could go on about this for hours. Do a whole lecture on just the shading. If you really wanted, let me know. With that, let's dive into the Q&A.